Welcome back. This is KBC News Check. Anne Wangeshi will now be our sign language interpreter. My name is Njue, and in case you just joined us, we are now crossing over to something quite different from leadership, but it's more or less leaning on the same, where we are looking at the economic models. We've had each and every politician who is seeking the top seat talking about this type of economic model. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Why that now? And of course, initially we used to hear of manifestos. What have happened to manifestos? Perhaps we should get deeper into what these models mean, and especially to the 2022 general polls, to clearly understand what they mean and how practical they are. And joining me now is a marketer by profession and also a leadership and governance expert. His name is Jacob Kioko. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Karibu. It's not your first time here.
No, it's not my first time.
Good. So at least we are good to go.
Yes.
We had been discussing the same thing for the last 2-3 minutes earlier.
Yep.
And each and every politician is talking about this economic model, these economic models. But perhaps what has most caught the eye of Kenyans is the bottom up, trickling down. And of course, others are just talking about other economic models, which of course they will be coming up. Each and every leader who is coming up or talking about the top seat, he's talking about an economic model. What happened to manifestos? We used to have to hear Jubilee manifesto, we heard the NASA manifesto, but now all of a sudden, as we get to the 2022 politics, we are hearing of bottoms up, trickling down, you know.
Well, I cannot speak authoritatively on parties' manifestos, but I can speak very authoritatively on the bottom-up economic theory.
Okay.
But before I do that, I would want to make it known to Kenyans that I'm a marketer by profession, and the Dugu innovation was developed over a period of 16 years before patenting it in year 2010.
Right here in the country?
Yes. The Dugu innovation, Dugu means dichotomous universal growth web innovation.
All right, that's a little bit technical.
It's not technical, really. What it means is...
in simple terms.
Very, very simple terms.
Okay.
That it is a web of businesses and their customers joining up together so that both parties benefit. That's what it means, a web of comprised of customers and business people, so that the two parties support each other and market to each other, and then they share the economic benefits accruing from that partnership relationship. And that is the role that Dugu plays. To set up a platform where the customer gains from the purchases that he makes for everyday use beyond the usual benefits that he gets from the product that he purchases. What I mean by that is, for every item that you purchase, you'll be afforded a trade derivative.
Okay.
Call it points, if that is what is simpler. So that you are encouraged to purchase more. And the more you purchase, the more you are saving in points. And instead of redeeming your points as we are used to, you are issued with a share certificate, and the cumulative accrual of those, the money is so earned, is invested in job-creating business corporations.
Okay.
So that at the end of the trading period for these business corporations, every shareholder is paid dividends.
How do we link that with what our politicians are talking about? That is the form of to a common mwananchi.
The most common person, I'm not going to link it with our politicians, but what I'm here saying is this economic model affects the most lay person, because every living person eats. And for you to live, you must purchase. You eat and you must purchase. And when you purchase, you are afforded the points. So it affects every single living human being.
Okay. Now, I do remember on Sunday, the Anglican Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, while of course telling politicians the pulpit is to keep off the pulpit when it comes to politics, he asked, before we interrogate any politician with any economic model, we should ask ourselves, why as Kenyans are we poor first in the first place?
Yeah.
Is it a discussion that we are supposed to be having as Kenyans?
It is not Kenya alone. The key thing here is to establish our national background. There are 9 stages of African development. Slavery, colonization, independence, tribalism, socio-economic imbalances, negative politics, lack of investment capital, over-reliance on the largely failed trickle-down theory, and neocolonialism. Of the 9, 3 are history: colonialism, slavery, and independence. On attaining our independence, and this affects every African country, we came to a new dawn of tribalism, socio-economic imbalances, negative politics, and lack of investment capital. Now, this is where the real thing is, and this is what I will want to tackle now, so that everybody's in the picture. The lopsided economic policy imposed on us by the colonial government, leading to our core national problem, societal economic imbalances, fuel discontent among different ethnic groups. That is one problem. The second problem is the ethnic-based social policy, again imposed on us, or rather inherited from the colonial government. This counters all efforts of total social integration, leading to the nation-killing tribalism problem. Negative politics, all Kenyan politicians, both living and dead, were born into that negative socio-economic setup, inherited from the colonial government. That is, the negative social policy and the lopsided economic policy.
All that is bounded, of course, by negative governance.
True, but we inherited, that was passed over to us, and we made no adjustments. I'm coming to that. On attaining our independence, politicians started sprouting up in all parts of the country, with every one of them narrowed on his area. Now, that was compounded by the lopsided economic policy. When slavery was abolished and outlawed, the European beneficiaries switched from slavery into colonialism, perpetuating the same thing, exploiting the African to boost their own economies. Only that they were doing it in the African continent, not elsewhere.
And don't you think the same thing that we are having? We have our own colonialism, because we have the big divide between the rich and the poor.
Precisely.
And of course, the politicians here,
that is where I'm coming to.
Each and everything that
is right.
That will make Kenyans easy. Kindly.
Precisely.
Because of the interest of time. Yes.
Sorry, precisely that. Because I wanted first of all to explain to Kenyans what the problem really is. Then, what is the solution? Okay. Why are we where we are? Four pertinent questions. How did we get where we are? Why are we stuck where we are? How do we get out of where we are? And finally, what are our future prospects?
Okay.
Those are the questions that I would answer as I progress.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are here going round and round in vicious circles over a problem, or there are problems which nobody has really bothered to analyze, and that is why the existence of the Dugu innovation. The lopsided economic policy was started by the Europeans, the colonists, because they developed only those sections of the country which they perceived to hold the highest economic potential, because theirs was exploitation and go away. They left the rest of the country severely alone, and that began the first crack. Now, at independence, as colonialism continued, beneath the colonial government policy was an African economic policy taking shape. By the time it surfaced at the inception of nationhood, it had matured enough to become our core national problem, societal economic imbalances. Same with the social policy. The European colonists established their administration boundaries along tribal lines for fear of a united front, African front, will rebel against the colonial rule. Now, the problem here arose because we didn't realize that that socio-economic policy initiated by the colonial government was supposed to serve their purpose. So we adopted every single item without realizing it. Later, it dawned on us that we have a real challenge here. Now, to overcome that problem, the Dugu innovation comes on board, and it takes every single Kenyan on board. Whatever item you purchase, and as long as you leave your purchase, you are afforded a trade derivative. We call it a retainer incentive.
Okay, okay. Now, looking at what actually, in simple terms, let's, because of the interest of time, what our politicians, our good politicians, are selling to us. Some are talking about Kenya, of course, the huge debt burden that we have. Some are talking about restructuring the loans, or perhaps making sure that we review those loans so that at least we may have more money, because more money is being channeled into loans. Do you think that is one of the things that could help at least resuscitate Kenya's economy that has also been battered by COVID-19, and it was not doing very well before COVID came?
That can only be said by my standards to be a stop-verb solution. It's not a solution. For now, we may get some relief, but reality is the problem still lingers and may continue to be even worse. The situation to the solution of this problem is to first adopt the Dugu innovation as a national asset. On doing that, after doing that, we will... In
simpler term, for perhaps somebody who has just joined us, that is the bottom up.
The
bottom up or the trickling down?
The trickle down theory was developed by Prophet Malachi in 720 BC. Let us not go into that.
Yes,
let us talk about the bottom up. The bottom up concept. It's my brainchild.
Okay.
And that is why
we are hearing it everywhere.
Yes, but I've been vocal.
The Hustler Nation, as they call themselves, they have been actually peddling it that their bottom-up economic approach is going to help salvage Kenya's economy.
It will, but who knows it better than I?
But that is not the only model that we are having. We are having a lot of economic models from our political elite.
I don't know anything apart from what I am a specialist in.
Yes.
And that is
just the bottom up.
Yeah, the bottom up.
Okay.
And that is what I'm going to speak authoritatively on here. That it is derived from the purchases that you make on a daily basis. And that...
Now, let's put it into Kenyan's perspective and in the politics of the day.
Well, you buy bread.
Yes.
If bread goes for, say, 40 shillings, for every loaf that you purchase, you are afforded, it's actually, strictly speaking, a sales promotion program. You are afforded sales promotion. I don't know whether any Kenyan doesn't, there's a Kenyan who doesn't understand that.
Yeah, there could be. Well, then, I have a hard time myself.
Do I put it in Kiswahili?
Even better. Actually, we will be able to understand exactly what our...
Inakuwa hivi. Kwa kila bidhaa ununuayo dukani, utapewa na kampuni inayotengeneza hiyo bidhaa kishawishi.
More or less like bonga points in form.
It is. Only that I don't want to use other people's terms. Kishawishi ambacho twakiita bakshishi bakshiwa. Bakshishi ni ukienda sokoni kununua kwa mfano viazi Ulaya na ile ndoo. Mama akuuziaye atakuwekea kwa mkoba wako viazi na umpe bei ya hiyo viazi, pesa ambazo anauza hizo viazi. Akitaka kesho urudi kwake, anakuongezea viazi vingine viwili au vitatu. Hiyo ni bakshishi, beba nenda. Waenda nayo nyumbani. Lakini kwa huu mpango ni bakshishi ambao utabakishiwa. Hutabeba uende nayo nyumbani. Kama vile unasema bonga points. Ukinunua kile ambacho kinakufanya upate hizo bonga points, huendi nazo nyumbani. Sasa badala ya kuzivunja na kuzitumia kwa kununua mambo bidhaa zingine, utapewa cheti miliki.
Okay, now let's translate it now into the political spheres here in the country. Of course, there's a lot that the bottom up, as you said, you're calling it you're using another name, the Ndugi.
Ndugi is the innovation.
Okay, there's massive borrowing in each and every government that we've had, apart from, of course, the Kibaki regime had quite some that didn't have a sweet tooth for borrowing, but right now we are edging towards the red zone. Even the World Bank did talk about our appetite for borrowing. So how do we sort out this using the bottom up, as you call it, the Ndungi?
The Ndugi innovation will empower every Kenyan on getting your bonga points, if you so wish to call them, and investing. If in a village you are, say, 100 people, and you are all buying bread, for example, you have your 2 shillings, I have my 10, etc. You put them together and set up an institution, a trade, a company, which will offer those who are jobless jobs.
How is that?
It's a company that we have set up, and the investment capital is coming from your savings through this arrangement. That is the key thing. Investment capital to be raised from local resources.
Okay, talking of resources, we have a huge chunk of wasted resources. I'm talking about the young men and women who are being churned out of university and colleges each and every year, and they are jobless. How do we fix that using that economic model?
That is precisely what I'm driving at. Okay. If you could let me speak.
All right. Kindly.
The issue here is every single living Kenyan, young or old, eats. And as long as you eat, you purchase. And as long as you purchase, you are afforded the points. Now, this is your personal saving. Put together, we are about 50 million Kenyans. Put together, if every Kenyan were afforded, say, a shilling a day, we'll be putting together about 50 million shillings every day.
Yes.
Maybe more.
Yes.
So that is the money, the investment that we would have raised locally, which then will be spent on financing business corporations, the universities and the colleges and even the other schools who are churning out those young people.
Yes, we have 50 million.
Yes,
each and every day.
Yes,
and we have the students, the graduates or from universities, diplomas?
Yes. Now, we would decide on a county basis. What project do we have in Kajiado, for example? It's going to give us 500 jobs. Let the 500 jobs go to every one of the 44 tribes. Then we go to Nyandarua, do the same.
The 50 million per day?
Yeah, the 50 million shillings per day. Then we'll continue that way, so that every county will at one time have at least one large institution giving Kenyans jobs. And more than that, if we lobby the WTO, because COVID-19 is a two-pronged pandemic, one medical and the other one economic. I hope we're in agreement.
Yes, true.
Right. The developers of the vaccines, which seek to trim the medical arm of COVID-19, have been accredited by the WHO. We are sure we are dealing with the right thing. Now, the Dugu innovation seeks to trim the economic prong of COVID-19. So we should hear, actually the government of the Republic of Kenya should come on board and lobby the WTO to accredit the Dugu innovation as the solution to the COVID-19 problem, because all economies have gone down.
Okay. A good example is, I do remember the Deputy President poking holes at the 4 billion shillings gun factory in Ruiru, talking about, instead of the 4 billion, because the factory employs about 100 people, that money could have been used to open up small businesses. Do you support that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, because actually I will still poke holes on that, because at the end of the day, we are not only providing employment for 100 people, we are also saving in terms of arms that we usually buy billions and billions, and of course cutting down on unscrupulous business people, and also of course cutting down on the defense budget. Don't you think so?
No, I don't agree with the entire setup, because we have had the youth fund.
Yes, and we have so many funds
over the years.
Yes,
but
they should have done that. Whatever you're talking about, they should have done that. We have the youth fund. We have so many funds that should have used the same bottom-up economic approach you're talking about. But they haven't. They haven't, because actually the youth fund has not actually. We have cases in court. A court report. I have been following up on some of the cases involving the funds that the government intended to trickle down to, or perhaps to bottom up the economy, and you still support that?
Well, what I'm here saying is, let me not go into other people's details.
Okay.
The issue is very simple. The youth fund, according to me, was mismanaged from day one. Because after the billions which have been pumped into the fund over the years, I cannot point at one project which is helping the youth.
That is true.
We, I think, overspread our budget. We spread it too thinly to have any impact. Had we set up, say, like a tannery plant in Wajir, or Machakos, or wherever it is, taking up the hides and skins from raw stage to the finished products. Today, we will have at least 1,000 young people getting jobs there.
That is true.
Yeah, and then we expand that to the international market.
What about entrepreneurship? If we decide we are looking for jobs for the youth, what about empowering them to actually have their own small businesses?
Precisely. That is what Dugu Innovation intends to do. Apart from the giving of jobs, you as an individual will be empowered through your own savings. Yes?
But many Kenyans don't have a single savings, to be very honest.
And that is what I mean. Because you live, you purchased an item today morning. That should have given you some saving.
But is that going to happen in this moment in time in Kenya, where you buy something and you have something left for savings?
Why not?
People are surviving from hand to mouth. And you know very well the fuel prices are not making anything.
They are not surviving from hand to mouth. They are surviving from source to mouth. It is that bad.
Yes.
And we must have a starting point. There are no miracles here. Let us go by reality. If 50 million shillings were saved on a daily basis,
yes,
in a month, we will be at some point. Let that go to investment in a job-creating business corporation, wherever that may be located. Then, in another 3 months, we have another one. And the products coming from those business corporations, on being sold, will give whoever buys the multiplicity will continue. So that at the end of the year, for example, we have something to point on to hold on to. More than that, the Group Innovation will set up a curriculum to train Kenyans on its operations.
But we've not had our politicians tell us that the Hustler Nation is preaching the bottom up. But we haven't had any.
Because they don't know what it is. I say it is my brainchild. Yes, it is my brainchild, and that is why I'm here explaining it to Kenyans.
Okay, how does it compare to other economic models?
I don't know how it does, but I know about the trickle-down theory, because this is the theory that humanity has used from time immemorial.
Actually, from since we gained independence, right?
Not from since we gained independence.
Yes,
from
I'm talking for the Kenyan model.
720 BC.
Okay.
By Prophet Malachi. And it has worked inefficiently, but it's the only thing that humanity knew. All through, until this new development, the Group Innovation. It is a new development because nobody ever heard of it before I pronounced it.
Yes.
And it was patented by the WTO because it's something new.
Yes.
So we must get a starting point. Irrespective of what our leaders say, and you may invite them here for a discussion with them to tell Kenyans what it is that they are talking about by bottom up or bottom down, if there is one like that.
Do you think that it is the bottom-up approach is an academic solution to Kenya's problems, not actually the physical solution to Kenya's problem?
It's both. Because as long as you are empowered through this arrangement, it's physical to you. And the academic part, you are mentally prepared.
Why are then so many Kenyans poking holes on the bottom-up economic approach?
Because those who pronounced it at the political level don't know what it is. You have heard their explanation of the bottom-up.
Yes,
they simply have overheard it in the street. It sounds good. So, you know, they come up and say, yes, it's bottom-up. Not a single one of them
is able actually to tell Kenyans how exactly it's going to affect them directly.
In a single sentence. Not one is able to explain it to Kenyans in a single sentence because they don't know anything about it. So get it from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
This is my brainchild.
Make it as simple as it could be.
Yes. Nunua maziwa au mkate au bidhaa nyingine yoyote na kuna kile ambacho utawachiwa. Kama ukihita bonga points, ukihita vile wataka kukiita.
Will that really be practical to buy something, and as soon as you buy that something, there's some money that goes back to you?
You surprise me, because it has happened over the decades.
I'm talking about Kenya.
I'm talking about Kenya.
Kindly, give us an example.
Yeah. The Safaricom bonga points and all the other sales promotion programs have the same effect. It's only that nobody has ever put them together in some formal arrangement for the benefit of everybody. And that is why Dugui is an innovation.
Yeah. And you're saying this is a solution to the perennial problems that Kenya has had since independence?
Not Kenya alone, the entire continent. Maybe
I'm talking about Kenya because our politicians are each and every day feeding us about this economic approach,
Yeah.
Then how does it fix the economy? Because the economy first. Let's not talk about economic empowerment. Let's first of all talk about the situation that we are having right now.
That's right.
The economy is battered. Of course, there's COVID-19. So how does your bottom-up approach get us from this hole first, before we empower?
That's right.
Okay.
There is what I call the hexagonal marketing theories. And this involves the Dugui innovation building a broad customer base and a permanent capture market for business, and equipping markets with purchasing power.
But that's a lot of jargon for...
It is not. Now, what do I say? Because this is the least that I can explain too.
That's the simplest.
The simplest that I can imagine, ya kwamba kampuni itapata wateja wengi. Kila mtu akifuata ufanisi.
Fine. How does it tackle? Because of course corruption is also another thing that is eating into the economy. A third of Kenya's economy budget actually ends up in people's pockets. We're talking about 2.7 trillion budget. Then that is, we do a third, that is 900 billion. You do the math, that is around 2 point something shillings. 2.2 to 2.5 billion shillings a single day. Corruption. How does this approach actually help us?
The Dugui innovation is going to kill off corruption.
How is that?
I will tell you how. And first and foremost, this is strictly a private sector arrangement. A private sector. It will be managed by the most lay person, not by the government. It will actually ultimately develop into a supplemental economic sector to supplement the effort of the conventional economic sector.
So how do we seal off the corruption?
The corruption, Dugui has developed what it calls the corruption eradication formula. It being a marketing-based innovation.
Assuming now that, let's assume now you are the president and you have that economic approach, and Kenya is reeling in poverty because of corruption as one of the major detriments that eats into the country's revenue. How can you tackle corruption using this approach?
Corruption will be tackled by, one, involving other professions besides the law. The law has been there from time immemorial, and it must continue to be there. But it has its own limitations. To overcome those limitations, another two professions have been brought on board by the Dugui innovation. One of them marketing through the Dugui innovation, and the other one is religion. I tell you why. The Dugui innovation will broaden our horizon so that we have more resources, more money will flow in. Yes. And religion will attend to the innermost faculty of man, that is conscience. Religion does. Remember the story of Zacchaeus? Yeah,
the taxman.
Yeah, the taxman.
Yes,
religion did penetrate. Yes, but here,
yes,
before religion does that, the law must be firm.
Yes.
It will confront corruption from the front. Yeah. The layman will be now empowered through this arrangement so that he resists corruption from the rear. No, it's my money you are stealing, stop it.
But actually, each and every day we talk about stop eating money, stop eating public money from counties to government to parastatals. But we are seeing the same thing happening. We are talking about a third of Kenya's budget.
That is what I'm trying to correct.
Yes.
Through this. And that is why the arrangement, the law confronting corruption from the front, the layman, you and I, saying no to the corrupt people. You know, you are in the communications industry. Tell us who are corrupt. And before you fuel his car, you tell him, pay me in advance because you are going to steal from me. And see how much he resists. I mean, being told so by the petrol attendant.
Other than just a layman and an ordinary Kenyans, we have agencies mandated to do the same thing, but this money keeps on. What difference will that approach make? Because we have the agencies as we speak that have been tasked to look into matters corruption, but we're still seeing public money being siphoned. How is it going to change that from what we are having right now?
The issue here is the layman will now be empowered slightly outside the conventional economic sector. This is a private sector setup. Let me emphasize that.
Okay.
And the conventional sector, which is the one ridden with the corruption that you're talking about.
Yes.
Here will be strictly the private sector's input into the economy. And they will go by that because if you don't do the right thing, you'll be sacked.
And we are talking about now Njue.
That is the person that I'm talking about. The most ordinary man, person. Because as long as you eat, you purchase. And that is the man that I'm talking about. And it is that purchasing which is going to empower Wanjiku.
Okay.
Yeah? Strictly on a private sector's setup. Different from the conventional sector's setup. One of the reasons why what you are saying has gone on over that period of time is because there is no standard to go by. Now, this new setup will set the standards. If in the private sector there is no stealing, and these are the same Kenyans, Kenyans from the same country, then you must go by the higher standards of the private sector, which is a conventional, a supplemental economic sector, really. And then we will have the normal, as we are now talking, discouragement of those who want to have good names. Yeah. If you have stolen, stop stealing. And instead of going the stealing way, this sector, the new economic sector, the supplemental economic sector, actually it's called the National Economic Devolution Sector, NEDS, will broaden the space to the point in which it becomes easier to amass personal wealth many times legally than it will be to do that through corruption.
Okay. Then let's look at nationalism, because looking at countries like China and our very own Tanzania, they have really enshrined nationalism into matters governance. Looking at China is a no-go zone when it comes to corruption or misuse of public money. There's a lot of wastages, and especially in counties, you have noticed. How is it that we'll enshrine this bottom-up approach, will enshrine nationalism and ensure that we do not even have wastages, not only in counties, each and everywhere, so that Wanjiku may get all the services and value for her money and her vote?
Well, Tanzania was lucky to get out of the hook at the inception of nationhood. But this sprouted from the government of their, from the their socialism mode of government, they came up with one single success story: language. It overcame the social disintegration problem which was initiated in all African countries by the colonists, and that is what I called the ethnic-based social policy. Tanzania was lucky to get off the hook, especially from the social integration aspect, because they developed a language which unified them at the inception of nationhood. Now, we too can develop our own belated policy of getting out of that hook by using internal trade as the leverage medium to foster total social integration and achieve the rare feat of simultaneous business profitability growth and perpetual human economic development. Yani, biashara ikue, nawe pia ukekua. Na kwa vile sisi ni wanabiashara wa Kenya, vile tunajulikana, leo kuna ndizi Kisii. Wewe nami tumekuwa empowered, tumewezeshwa. Tuna hela za kuenda Kisii kununua ndizi. Tuenda Kisii tununua ndizi, tuwazilete mahali ambapo ndizi haziko. Kuna viazi Nyandarua ama mihogo Kwale. Kila mmoja wetu amewezeshwa kwa uchache wake tu kuenda kule anunue ndizi ama viazi au mihogo, tuuze mahali ambapo hizo bidhaa haziko. Hiyo jambo itatuunganisha kwa vile mteja wako ni wa kuhifadhiwa, wangu pia. Sasa hiyo itatuleta pamoja kwa vile tulipoteza hatua fulani, hatukufanya kama vile Tanzania walifanya, tukaunganishwa kwa pamoja na lugha. Sasa biashara ya ndani ndio ya kipekee suluhu yetu kutuunganisha pamoja, kwa vile kila mtu anataka mteja wake. Vita ambavyo twapigana katikati yetu hazina maana. Na shida iliyoko ni kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa usawa wa uchumi. Na suluhu itapatikana sio kwa miujiza, lakini kupitia kwa huu mpango wa bottom up. Yule wa mashinani kabisa, tuanze naye, halafu tumwezeshe.
Okay, final one. Of course, the government and also political elite. The Deputy President has been holding meetings, and you've had the churches, of course, castigating that. Of course, all the politicians, basically, more and more. Each and every day you hear they are holding something small, and the churches have been there to actually condemn that. And the observance to the rule of law in Kenya has not been quite solid. We've even had some of the directives the court have given the government, but not obeyed. Is there a way? Is there a solution? Because if we do not obey the law, either economic model that we use will be just a waste of time.
True, I agree. And that is why the Dugu innovation is the only innovation available to us, and maybe humanity, that has the capacity of developing a curriculum. I repeat that.
Yes.
Developing a curriculum. Because what we need is an attitudinal overhaul. It cannot come from a vacuum. It must be linked to what we understand best, and that is business. So that is why it's absolutely essential for KCID and the local universities to take up the Dugu innovation and develop a curriculum and start training Kenyans from university level downwards. And there are no two ways about it. We must change our attitudes, and it cannot happen in a vacuum.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Of course, a lot of Kenyans will argue we have our own curriculum, that is the constitution, but is not being followed. But away from that, indeed, thank you so much for coming and for giving us an insight on the economic models. And of course, I have been talking to Jacob Kioko, who is a marketer and also a leadership and governance expert. We're trying to figure out the economic models that we hear each and every day that will bring solutions to Kenyans, because a lot of Kenyans just are wondering why now. We also have party manifestos which have not been fulfilled to the letter, but that's a story for another day. Thank you indeed so much for watching. I'm Njue. I'm now giving the baton to my colleague Ben Chumba, who will be taking us through Kurunzi Mashinani. Thank you so much for watching. Anwangeshi has been our sign language interpreter for this morning. It's just a few minutes to midday. Thank you so much.